Wachina by Waranavich. Wachina, the girl of the evergreen foothills by the northern sea, would set out each morning toward the dew-kissed rice paddies behind her village. The hem of her long, pleated dress swept the muddy path, and the rain-soaked earth doubled the freshness and vibrancy of the flowers embroidered on her skirt. The dawn breeze, enraptured by the dance of her long skirt, would watch in silence while the rice fields on either side of the muddy road smiled their vegetal smiles and bade her farewell. At the edge of the paddies, there was a stream and a pond fed by the clear, cool waters of a spring. A large stone lay beside the pond, resting beneath the shade of a weeping willow. The young girl had to fill her jug from that spring and return home. This was Wachina's daily ritual, and on the dawn of one such day, the rain-nurtured girl of the northern hills, before the village rooster could crow, donned her long, flowered, pleated skirt, took her empty jug and her full heart, and set out from home. The rain-kissed soil trembled beneath her steps, and the colorful embroidery on her skirt seemed to draw fresh life from the dew and the breeze. The morning wind, enamored with the swirl of her skirt, accompanied her to the edge of the muddy road, and the delicate rice stalks on either side stood tall, reaching out to greet the early rising girl. At the end of that misty and silent path, the crystal spring shimmered like a mirror in the earth, waiting to offer its first greeting to Wachina at sunrise. She reached the spring, but that spring seemed not entirely silent. Behind the mist-wet branches of the willow tree stood a young man, tall, wheat-skinned, with eyes that held the freshness of spring. His name was Warnak. Wachina looked at him with the gaze of a stranger, and the moment their eyes met, time stood still. The birds silenced their song. The spring swallowed its clarity, and Wachina's heart suddenly trembled. Without a word, without vow or promise, their hearts became bound. The spring became their sanctuary of meeting, a dreamlike place where every glance was a force of gravity, and every smile a blossom offered to yearning hearts. From Wachina's dress rose the fragrance of rice fields, and from Warnak's lips came words only a lover's ear could hear. 2 weeks passed since that first encounter, and each day was more beautiful than the last. But fate has never been kind to hearts so utterly lost and captivated. One day, when the swallows had begun their journey of no return earlier than usual, news came that Warnak had been summoned, for he was to begin his military service, the exile of young lovers. On their final meeting, beside the silent spring, even their farewell was wordless. Only tears spoke. Wachina, like a tender vine, wrapped herself in Warnak's arms. Suddenly, the jug resting on the stone beside them toppled and broke. Warnak struggled to free himself from the entwined tendrils of her embrace, and with a sorrowful face and a cracked heart left behind at the spring, he departed. Months passed. Warnak sent letters scented with the sorrow of separation, and Wachina kissed them, read them over and over, folded them, and hid them in the storeroom. It was a strange time. In the city's chaos had erupted. people had poured into the streets, crying for the fall of tyrants, those who had pressed their boots to the people's throats, looting their being and belongings. It was a time of screams and wounds. No birds sang in the cities. Not even the wind whispered. What echoed through the streets were human cries and the splatter of blood on the pavement of dark alleys and sweat-drenched asphalt streets, and the rattling bursts of gunfire, the gruesome banquet of martyrs, those who dared to demand freedom. But the ruling regime's turbaned demons and godless zealots were blind and deaf to anything but their own convenience. Their orders to kill the people and crush the rightful protests of a nation robbed of even the most basic rights. Thus the supreme leader, the old jackal, summoned his armed henchmen, from riot police to the Revolutionary Guards, the special forces, and the paid basijis, ordering a massacre of defenseless citizens. Warnak was among the soldiers, forced to be there. He could neither will nor bear to point his weapon at the people. With his heart in his hand and a rifle slung over his shoulder, he stood among the executioners, until suddenly his commander called him and a few others forward, arranged them, pointed to a group of protesters, and with frothing fury shouted, "Fire! Fire! Shoot them! Shoot their hearts! Shoot their screams! Shoot their dreams!" The soldiers looked at one another. In their eyes was a question. Who were they to shoot? No enemy stood before them. Their targets were defenseless human beings, not foreigners, but fellow countrymen, not foes, but kin in tongue and culture. Warnak rose. Amid the stunned eyes of his comrades, he raised his gun, aimed it at the commander's dark heart, and fired. And before the others could grasp what had happened, he cried, "Long live freedom! Long live humanity! Long live love!" Then turned the gun on himself, and with a bullet to the brain, embraced eternity. He refused to blacken the loving heart he had given to Wachina. He could not betray his love. He knew that to abandon humanity was to betray love. Days later, news of his death reached the village like a nightmare. No one dared tell Wachina. Only after the villagers received Warnak's lifeless body and buried him without her knowing, did the truth begin to echo in silence. Months passed. With no letters, no word from Warnak, Wachina grew anxious. She asked everyone she met about him. The villagers worried. She laughed without reason, cried while smiling, talked to plants and birds, sometimes danced, sometimes screamed. She had gone mad. One day, with disheveled hair and a pale face, she made her way to the spring, sat on the stone beside the pond where the water flowed, dug her nails into her knees, and wept. Then, after a long silence, she stared into the still, clear water and cried in a haunting voice, "O pond, you who quench your thirst with spring water and shine clear, aren't you the mirror of the moon? Doesn't she comb her hair before you each night? Doesn't she kiss you? Don't be ashamed. Warnak kissed me too. I know the moon kisses you, and you turn silver, pond. my confidant, my pond, by that very moon who makes you silver and whom you love. Tell me, show me, where is my Warnak? Where is he whose very shadow I hold dear? Pond, pond, pond. Then Wachina rose, gazed once more at the spring, wept sweetly, laughed bitterly, and fainted to the ground. The willow tree watched her death. Its leaves, caught in a morning breeze, fell. The shadow of death wiped her tears and fled that place in haste.